I thought about creating players' score for the coins, lives, and score in general in this video, but for that we need to create the UI for our game. Instead of creating the score for the lives, coins, and score in general now, we are going to create our menus to get to know the Unity's UI system, how can we use buttons, how can we use images, canvas, so on and so forth, so that we can know what we actually need to use before we create our score. For that, we need to create a new scene, so I'm going to go under File and click on New Scene. And here I'm going to save this scene in Scenes folder and I'm going to name it Main Menu. Now, the first thing that we need to do is in our sprites and for our buttons, we need to slice all of these buttons. So here we have our menu buttons and I'm going to go into the sprite editor and I'm going to slice them. So first we need to set the sprite mode to multiple and hit apply, and now I'm going to go here and slice our sprites. So this is our start game button, and let me just copy from here. So start game button, this is going to be our high score button. This one is options, so options. This one is quit, but we see that Unity, even though has a nice automatic slicing system, it did not slice this how we want it to. We can simply take it like this and resize. We can take this rectangle that, well, will slice our game object, and we can position it wherever we want in order to slice that game object. So this is for our quit game button, so quit button. And for our music on button, we need to slice it our own. So simply click with the left mouse click and hold and drag this, well, rectangle. In our case, it is more a cube. And then simply position it over this button. We can click on this trim in order to trim it around the button. And I think this is nice for now. This is going to be our music on button, and this is going to be our music off. So music off button. And now hit apply, so we are going to have all of these buttons by name, which we see here. For our options buttons, I'm going to also go here and we need to slice them, but before that we need to set them to multiple, which I forgot again. Go here and slice them, so click on slice. This is going to be our easy button. This is going to be our medium button. This is for the difficulty of our game, and this is going to be our hard button. This is going to be our check sign, so check sign button, or simply I'm going to name it check sign, so check sign like this. And this is going to be our back button, so back button like this, and hit apply. So now the first thing that we need to create is an image, which is going to be our background. But the main thing with the UI is the canvas. We need to go here under UI and we need to create a canvas. But we can, for example, create an image, which we need. And if we don't have a canvas created already, which we don't, it will automatically create a canvas for us. So if I click on the image, we see that we automatically have a canvas for us created here. Every image, or excuse me, every UI object, so under UI, every UI object, so text, image, raw image, button, so on and so forth, they need to be children of the canvas, or otherwise, well, this will not work and they will not be displayed in our screen. So when we select our canvas, we have a couple of options on him. So here for the canvas, we have the render mode. So we have this screen space overlay, which is practically this here that we see. Screen space overlay, I don't know how can I explain it, but this practically overlays the screen as we see here, and we can see what we put here. So if I take the image and if I position it here, we are going to see it here. And well, further from that, I don't know how to explain what actually this is, well, for the screen space overlay, even though, well, this is not too much important because mostly we are going to use screen space camera, because this allows us to attach the main camera here and then use the canvas directly connected with the camera. And now I've lost these squares or these cubes that you see here in the grid. For that, we need to click on this layout here and choose the default layout, but I have already saved this as my layout, and now I have these cubes again. So I don't know, sometimes when I click on something or if I double click some game object, I use this grid here that we now see. In order to fix that, simply reselect a layout here. If you don't have your own layout saved, then you can select the default layout, for example, and then rearrange these options however you want it to be. So you can, well, resize the icons, so on and so forth. And in order to save a layer, you go here, save layout, and then save it with the name and click save. I have saved mine and I named it my layout. So now when I click on it, this is what I have. Anyway, that was off topic, but it just happened, so I needed to explain what was going on. And as I said, we have here screen space camera, which will allow us to use the canvas connected with the camera, and it will scale with the camera along anything that we do with the camera. Canvas will scale also with it. So if I select the camera and I rescale it, we see here I'm setting the size. The canvas is resizing with the camera itself. We can also use this screen space or this world space, and this will allow us to position these game objects inside of world space in, well, Unity's world space. We talked about it when we used screen position, or camera main screen position, I think, to world space or something like that, the name of the function, which we know already. I just forgot the correct name, but this will allow us to position these game objects in world space practically the same way as our player or our clouds, so on and so forth. But as I said, we are going to use our screen space camera here, and I have already attached the main camera. One other thing that we can do with our canvas, and this is how can we support multiple screen resolutions. So here for our canvas scaler script, we have UI scale mode. We are going to select this scale with screen size, and now we have a reference resolution that we can use. That practically means that we can create our assets, that is our backgrounds and our buttons, using a certain reference resolution. And I have created my assets using 480 by 800. So this is my reference resolution, and I can set it here. So 480 by 800. And we can also set here to match width or height, expand or shrink. The best way is to set match width or height. And here we have the slider. And if it's on 0, it will match width more than height. If it's on 1, it will match height more than width. I'm going to set it at 0.5 to match width and height equally. And now that we have this image, and I'm going to rename it to background image, we can select one of the backgrounds and add them on this image. And I'm going to go here in our sprites and backgrounds. And here we have our main background, and we also have two images, or, well, two images from our main background. So main background and main menu background 2. We can notice that menu background has a size of 480 by 800. If I select this image, and again I lost the grid, so again I need to select my layout. I don't know why this happens. I'm not sure. If I find out, I will, well, tell you in the course. And I need to go back in my sprites and the background. If I select the image, and I will attach my menu background, we can now click here on set native size, and this will resize the image to its native size. Now this is the exact size as we set for our reference resolution. So we have here 480 by 800. Now this is not very good to have exactly the same size for the background as for the reference resolution, because we can take another resolution and we might have gaps. So we see here that I took this 720 by 1280, and we see that we have these gaps. And if I run the game, I'm also going to click on this maximize on play to see these gaps. So we have these blue gaps, if you see here, on the top and on the bottom. So in order to not allow this to happen, what we can do, we can create our image, our background image, that is, for the size that we want, that is our reference resolution, in our case 480 by 800. But we need to give it a little bit more pixels on the side. So if I take my background image, we need to give it a little bit more pixels on the size like this, so the image will be like this. And now if I go and select the same resolution as before, we now see that we don't have these gaps. And if I rerun the game, So I set it maximize on play. We see that we don't have these gaps here on the top and here also on the bottom. And this is how can we support multiple screen resolution. So simply creating our assets a little bit taller and wider than our reference resolution. So here, as I said, I have the reference resolution at 480 by 800. So we can create our assets, let's say 580 by 900, for example. And for that, I also have my main menu background too, which has a reference resolution by 720 by 1024. And I'm going to add that background here. And I'm going to set the native size, and we see the size of our background. But the main thing that we need to see in our game is contained with these bounds, which is 480 by 800. So you can create a wider and a higher background, as I just mentioned, but put the main things that you want to be visible in the game, in our case, in the menu. Put those main things in the reference resolution. So this here, what we see is exactly 480 by 800. But if we go here, notice if I select the camera, so you see the white lines representing the camera, notice how much wider is the image actually. This means that when we run our game on some other device that has, well, another resolution and another aspect ratio, we will prevent it from having those gaps that we saw earlier. And this is how can we support multiple screen resolutions. Of course, this, what I say here, is only one of the techniques that we can use in order to support multiple screen resolutions. But supporting multiple and different resolutions is a topic for itself. I think a course of 30 or 40 hours will not be able to cover that topic, because it's really hard to make your game look the same on each device. So my advice to you is to support the main devices that are on the market. So Samsung Galaxy S2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 when it comes out, iPhone 4, 5, all of the S's, so 4S, 5S, 6, 6S, 7 when it comes out, so on and so forth. Support the multiple brands, or excuse me, the main brands and their main devices. So for Huawei, for example, support Ascend P6, P7, P8. For LG, support their main devices, so on and so forth. Would they take a big part of the market? So support those devices. And for some lower devices, low budget devices, well, you need to write more code, you need to use more assets. One of the other ways to support multiple screen resolutions is to have multiple assets and then check the resolution and the aspect ratio when you begin your game, and based on that, use your assets. But that's a topic for itself. So this was a little bit about supporting multiple screen resolutions, and now let us start creating our menu. So we have our background. Now we need to add our buttons. So I'm going to go under Game Object, UI, and create a button. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And when we create a button, we automatically have a text that comes with this button, which I'm going to delete. So let me just position the button here. I'm going to delete the text. This is going to be our Start Game button. And I'm going to filter here for the source image. We have this little circle here. Click on the circle, and here we can filter for the image that we want. So I can simply type here Start Game button, and we have our button. I can click Set Native Size, and this will set the native size of the button, and this is what we see. Now, what we can do, I can reposition the button here, for example. Generally, as I said, the same way for the sprites, upscaling it is not a good idea, but in this case, we can upscale it a little bit. So we can set, for example, 250 by, I don't know, 70, just to upscale it a little bit. But you can see if you lose the quality, then don't upscale it. If you don't lose the quality, let me just scale it on 60. So now I think that the button looks a little bit better and it's a little bit wider, so it will look nice on the devices. Of course, as I said, you can, well, create them, for example, to be higher and wider, and then you can rescale them down, because as I said, generally it's not a good idea to rescale them up. But if you rescale them up and you don't lose quality, then it's no problem. Only if you rescale them up by a huge size, then, well, that will be a problem. So I can set the height at 65, for example, and I think this will be good. So this is our start game button, and I'm going to copy it and position it here and move this button a little bit here, and this is going to be our high score button. So here I'm going to say high score button, and I'm going to filter here for the high score button, and I'm going to select it. So this is what we have for the high score, and this is how it looks like in our game. I'm going to copy it and position it a little bit here like this. This is going to be our options button. So options button, and I'm going to filter for the options button image, and this is what we have here for the image. And lastly, our quit button. So I'm going to filter or reposition it down a little bit, rename it to quit button, and filter for the quit button image. So this is what we have here. Quit game. Oh, this is another. This is going to be in our pause panel. So quit button image. And this is what we have here for our buttons. And lastly, I'm going to copy this button. This is going to be our music on button. And here I'm going to say music button. So music button, and I'm going to filter for the music on button and set the native size for it and position it here using the anchor at the bottom right corner. So we can set the anchor where we want to position our button. For our initial buttons, I'm going to set the anchor to be at the center, so I'm not going to touch it. It can be at the center. But for our music button, because we want it to stay here at the bottom right corner, we can, well, simply set its anchor at the bottom right corner, and it will apply that anchor. I'm also going to rescale a bit, so let's say 60 by 60. And this is what we see for our button. We can take our other buttons and we can maybe move them a little bit up. So without the background image, only buttons. So like this, and this is what we have here, and this is what we see in our game. So this video is getting pretty long. In the next video, I'm going to talk a little bit about animation, as how can we use animations to animate our menus and our buttons, but this will be our main menu button. And we are going to, main menu scene. And we are going to stop here, and in the next video we are going to continue configuring our main menu.